In 1999, NASA did something that sounds like sabotage. It took a working spacecraft and deliberately smashed it into the moon at full speed. That spacecraft was Lunar Prospector, and its violent end was actually the point. Scientists wanted to know if there was frozen water hiding at the moon's south pole, and crashing the probe was the boldest way to look for it. Here is why that question mattered. Water on the moon would be one of the most valuable resources in space. It could support future astronauts, and it could even be split into hydrogen and oxygen for rocket fuel, turning the moon into a stepping stone deeper into the solar system. Lunar Prospector had already spent 19 months circling the moon. It flew in a low polar orbit, sweeping just above the surface. From there, it mapped what the moon is made of. It detected lunar hydrogen deposits, a possible fingerprint of hidden ice. It measured the moon's magnetic and gravity fields. It even watched for lunar outgassing events, brief releases of gas from below the surface. By July, the mission was running out of time, so the team turned the ending into one final experiment. On July 31, 1999, controllers steered the orbiter down into a crater near the lunar south pole. The idea was simple. If the crash kicked up a plume of debris, and if that plume contained traces of water, telescopes might catch the signature. It was a last, ambitious swing at answering the question the whole mission had been chasing. Lunar Prospector was part of something bigger than one probe. It flew under NASA Discovery program, and that program changed how space missions get made. The Discovery program began in 1990. Before it, NASA usually decided the target and the goals first, then looked for contractors to build the spacecraft. Discovery flipped that model. It opened the door to proposals on almost any science topic, judged by peer review. Each chosen mission is led by a single scientist called the principal investigator, and it can pull in help from industry, universities, or government labs. The program has one strict rule. The cost of each mission is capped, held well below the budgets of NASA larger New Frontiers or flagship missions. That limit forces a trade. Instead of one giant spacecraft trying to do everything, Discovery backs smaller, sharper missions aimed at a single clear question. Can we find water on the moon is exactly that kind of question. Discovery also does more than build brand new spacecraft. Through what it calls missions of opportunity, it can fund American participation in missions run by other space agencies, sometimes by supplying just one scientific instrument. It can even repurpose a spacecraft that already exists, giving old hardware a brand new job. All of this traces back to NASA itself, an agency built for exactly these kinds of bold experiments. NASA is the civilian space agency of the United States, established in 1958 during the space race. It was created to give the American space program a peaceful, civilian focus, and it has led nearly every major step since, from the Apollo moon landings to the Space Shuttle to the International Space Station. Lunar Prospector's crash sits squarely in that tradition. It was cheap, it was focused, and it was willing to risk the whole spacecraft on one daring measurement. The probe was gone, but the hunt it started was not. That hunt would go on for years. The question Lunar Prospector died trying to answer, whether real ice hides in the permanently shadowed craters of the lunar poles, became one of the driving goals of modern moon exploration. Later missions would carry heavier instruments and even repeat the same bold trick of slamming hardware into the surface to see what flew out. Today, that frozen water is no longer just a hope. It is a target, one that could decide where astronauts land next and how far humanity can push into the solar system. That's it for this one. Watch this next, why this shuttle flew more than any machine ever built.